Hello, this is David Ackerman, and I would like to show you how to make an IRC client. Simple IRC client in Java. As you can see right here, there's a subreddit called Daily Programmer, and it's got lots of different fun little projects to work on. This one's pretty easy. All we're doing is connecting to IRC. It's probably not super easy if you're doing it in C. You have to connect to a socket and everything. But we're going to do this in Java. It's pretty straightforward. And what I want to do is just create it completely from scratch. So if you're new to Java or just not sure how to start from scratch on something, hopefully this can be a useful video for you. And also it's really simple code, so we're going to go through it quickly because there isn't that much to type. But it is something that's useful, and it's kind of cool because making an IRC bot's always fun. It's for not very much code, you get a lot of fun out of it. And also with Daily Programmer here, there are more difficult challenges. This is just like the first of a series for the IRC stuff. We can build on this later, but for now, let's make something cool. So the first thing we do, at least that I would do, so we have the description of the problem here. We connect to IRC, and it kind of explains it, how we connect. The first thing we want to do is create a Java project, and I recommend using IntelliJ. So here we go. I have IntelliJ Community Edition. It's free, and there's a lot that IntelliJ does for you, so it's really great for a Java programmer. So let's create a new project. Now keep in mind, I already did create this once just to get through it, so I would know how to, I would know what steps to take. So it might look like I don't make any mistakes, or I just always exactly know what to do, and that's just because I did it before, so I'd be prepared for a video and wouldn't flail around a little bit debugging things. But because it's a simple little thing, I want this video to be kind of quick, and I want it to be informative. So just keep in mind, even as a professional programmer, you're going to be flailing around a little bit when you do stuff, so don't feel bad about any of that. Okay, so here we go. What I think we should create is a Gradle project. Gradle is just a newer build system than Maven. Maven is it's kind of built using the Maven dependencies, but Gradle gives you the way to add dependencies easily. If you're just using a regular Java project and jars and stuff, it can kind of get to be a pain. In this case, we don't really need Gradle, but it's useful to be able to create a project with it. Okay, so it's Gradle project, Java. I'm using Java 1.8. I definitely recommend using 1.8. 1.9 won't be out for another year or so, 2017, but 1.8 is in production, working well, and there's no reason not to create a new project with that if you're starting from scratch. So you say next. So for the group ID, let's say, this is what I like to use, DAC Labs, because that's me. Artifact ID, let's call it just IRC. And 1.0 snapshot is fine. So here, this is the Gradle Setup. I like to use the auto import, create directories for empty content roots. So it's like when you don't have any source files yet, you want to create a source directory, it'll do that for you. Using the default Gradle wrapper is the easiest thing. Let's just do that. Click next. So where do we put this? I'm going to say Java IRC. We'll call it IRC, but we'll call the folder Java IRC2, because I already made one called Java IRC. All right, click finish. It's just saying it'll create the directory. It's fine. And here we go. Tooltip. So as you can see at the bottom, it's indexing. What we can do is open up our project view. As you can see, there's nothing really here yet. Let's click on the build.gradle. After it indexes, what it's going to do is it's going to build the Gradle project. And what that's going to do is create the directories for us. Here we go. So now we're doing Gradle build. Compiling, configuring. It's doing a lot for us here. Okay. And there's some tool tips here. IntelliJ wants to make the Gradle stuff more awesome. Let's go ahead and do it. Okay. And let's not worry about the Maven repositories. We could do this if we wanted. We're not going to worry about it because we're not actually going to add any dependencies yet. Okay, source. So this is where we put our source code. We've got the Java folder. We've got within main and test. We're just going to create a simple one class solution here. We can always refactor it later, but I find that trying to solve the problem in the most straightforward way is the best way to start. And then from there, you can kind of notice some patterns, notice some places you can extract methods or classes, but then you don't over-engineer stuff. It's one thing that's really easy to do with Java is over-engineering. So we want to start simple and straightforward, and then we can add complexity later to kind of make things cleaner, maybe easier to test. All right, so let's make a new Java class. Let's call it IRC main. Okay. Let me delete these lines. Not necessary. Okay, let's make the main method. So if you're familiar at all with Java, you know about public static void main and list of string args. This just gets our program running. And let's do print. Let's just make sure that our program actually runs at all, because you want to make sure that you don't go too far without actually testing out your program. All right, it's running. Hello world. Okay, as you can see, great, it works. So we're gonna have to get into the actual problem here. Let's just label this. Okay, so let's actually get to the problem. Let's go back. Okay, so this is a network socket, and we're going to use IRC, which happens to be a socket-based. It's actually very straightforward. Our challenge is to communicate with the Freenode IRC server. This would consist of opening a TCP socket to Freenode and sending 2 protocol messages to initiate the connection. So it's saying that one message is a line of text. So through our socket, we're going to send a line of text up to 512 bytes, starting with a message code, followed by 1 or more space-separated parameters, and ending with /r/n, which is the actual Windows new line that's still used, but we can send these characters directly. Okay. The last parameter can be prefixed by a colon to mark it as a parameter that can contain spaces, which will take up the rest of the line. So, okay. So first let's figure out how to create a socket. So what would I do if I were doing this to start? Well, I'd say Java socket. Here we go, lesson all about sockets. Okay, reading from and writing to a socket, probably what we want. Awesome, here's some code already. So we want to just do new socket. That's pretty easy. Let's just start with that. New socket. Oh, so we can do Alt-Enter here. That imports the socket, java.net.socket dependency. And we need to pass in a host name and a port number. Well, what should that be? Well, let's see. Looks like the input description is you get the server and port, nickname, username, and real name as inputs. Okay, and then it will connect. All right, so let's just hard code this because this seems like something we're not going to want to change much. So chat freenode net. Chat freenode.net port 6667. We can do Alt-Enter again to create a variable. And let's just call it socket. Okay, what's the error here? Well, as you might expect, it's a Java I/O exception, which is a very common exception you can get. I think for this type of problem, we don't need to worry about it too much. Let's just add the exception to the method signature for simplicity. Okay, so we've got a socket. Now what do they suggest that we do? So we want to be able to get input and output in the socket. And so here we go. We've got a print writer, we've got a buffered reader we can create, so we can do that. So let's do that. Let's make the print writer. I'm just going to do that. But for the reader, I think we want something a little bit higher level. Print writer. And then this is socket. Okay. So we have a print writer, socket.getOutputStream. So this is a way for us to output text and send it to the server. We want input as well. Now, if you've used Java in tutorials, you probably realize that there's a class called scanner that takes an input stream. If you notice, socket has an input stream right here. So if we want, we can say scanner, let's say input. Let's do Alt-Enter, get the scanner, new scanner, and then you pass in the input stream. There we go. So now we have a socket and we have an input and an output. So we have a way of sending data out and getting data in. So what's the first thing we want to do? Well, let's go look. The first thing we should do is send nick and then a nickname and then username and real name. Well, we want to get these in from system in. So let's do that. Let's not create the socket till we get that information. So let's do scanner console equals new scanner system.in. We can say console.next line. That's going to be the nickname, and then username is the next line, and then real name is the third line. We're not going to worry about validation here either yet. It's not really that important. Okay, so now we have the variables. So what do we need to do? We need to say nick, and then the nickname, and then remember the end of it has to be /r/n. So let's do that. Out.print. So here's print, and it looks like it takes a string. So we can say nick, and then the nickname, and then /r/n. And then what we probably want to do here is do out.flush because we want to make sure that this gets sent. And what else? We probably also want to print what to standard out what we're actually printing and what we're getting in, right? So I think we're going to want to do something like this. Let's make this a message. Let's make a local. Let's call it a message. And we can say maybe we can say because we're sending it out, this will be our way of saying this is an out message. This is several lines of code already. We know we're going to want to do this for everything we send. Let's just make a method really quick out of this. Refactor, extract, method. Let's call it right. And as you can see, we've actually got two parameters we have to pass in here. The nickname, the print writer, and it's kind of a pain. It's kind of a little bit awkward. I think we should just make these fields. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's say Nick, create field. Let's make username and real name the same here. So we're going to want to use these in our methods. And remember, we're just being really simple here. This isn't generally recommended when creating a big program because static variables can get messy. They're almost like a global variable in a lot of ways. But for now, we just want this to be accessible from within this class. It'll be small. So let's make out, and let's make input also fields. Oops, let's do this dot out. Actually, I guess we have to do this ourselves. Private static print writer out. Private static scanner input. Let's just call it in. That seems a little bit more consistent. Okay. Now that we have all this, we don't need to pass these in. In fact, let's use IntelliJ for that. Click here, factor, change signature. We can actually just remove these both because they're unnecessary. There we go. Okay, but what's our message? We probably want to pass that in at least. So let's make this a parameter. Another thing we can do, factor, and then we can say extract parameter. Perfect. Okay. One last thing is we probably don't want to have to pass in the /r/n every time either. It's easy to forget. It could be buggy. And also, it might be nice to have the command and the message be separate because it just feels better. Let's go ahead and do that. So command, and then the message, right? And then we can get string command and string message. And when we print it, we can do the /r/n. And then we can do string. And then we can say full message equals command plus space plus the message. And then this can be full message. And this can as well. All right. Awesome. So we write Nick, and then what else do we want to write? User. We want user, username, 0* real name. So what that's saying is there's a user command right here. The username is what the user passed in to us. 0 and star are the server name, and I don't remember what the second parameter is, but host name, I think, and they're generally ignored, I believe. So we're giving them default values, don't really matter. And then we're using this colon because the real name could have spaces, and that's how it determines that this parameter can have spaces. It's all one parameter instead of being multiple because of the spaces. Okay, so let's do that. Right, user. Right, that doesn't need a space. And then we're going to do the username plus, what is it again? I forget. Username space 0 star, and then the full name with a colon before it. Real name. Great. Okay, let's see if this actually works. I really have no idea. I think what we're going to want to do though is we want to get all the input from the server. We want to know if it's sending us something. So before we can run this, let's actually get some input. How we do that is with the scanner. So let's say while in.hasNext in.nextLine. What that tells us, let's say line. Actually, let's say, yeah, let's call it server message. This is what we got from the server, a whole line. Because remember, commands are separated by r/n. Next line will read that for us. Let's print it out. So let's say system.out.println, printline, and then because we use the, down here, we use the 3 arrows right to say this is what we're sending. Let's say 3 arrows left means we're getting something in, server message. And I think that's all we really need. You can just print it, and it's just while it has next. Now the last thing is something that's just good to do in any program, is to close out your resources. So we have an input, I'm going to close it. We have an output. Oops, we're going to close it. And we have our socket, which we want to close. That's just to be nice. And then we can say done. Let's see how this works for us. Okay, doesn't look like it's showing anything. Let's stop that for now. What happened here? Okay, we call write. Ah, right, we need to pass in the info first. Let's actually print something out to give the user a little bit more indication here. System out print line. Enter a nickname. Let's just say print. And then we can say system.out.print. Enter a username. System.out.print. Enter your full name. Okay, this is probably better. It's a better UX. Okay, let's say our nickname is Dak. Username, David72486 is what I like to use. Full name, let's just say David A. Okay. All right, we're already getting responses from Freenode, as you can see. Wow, and we're already connected. How awesome is that? Look at all of this information here. So this is showing a lot of statistics. All of this is coming in from this Freenode server. We don't know how to do anything with it yet. There's two things we're going to need to do. One is the server will eventually call us with pings. We need to respond to make sure that we say that we're still connected. Otherwise, it'll time out the connection. So that's one thing. The other thing is that it'd be cool to be able to join an actual IRC channel. I don't think that's part of this challenge, but that would be cool, and it's not too tough. All right, so let's close this. Totally worked. Great. So what are we going to do? Let's get the ping and pong command down. Here we go, challenge input. The server will occasionally send ping messages to you. These have a single parameter beginning with a colon. Okay, so it's going to ping some value. The exact contents will vary but it's usually a unique string that your client is still connected and responsive. So we want to pong with the same thing that the ping had. Well, that's simple enough. Okay, well, here we go. In our while loop, we're getting the messages and we're printing them. So let's say if server message starts with ping, probably good enough. We want to respond, right? So let's say server message got split, splitting on space, and we're getting out the first thing. What we actually want to do is probably say, give me a maximum of 2 elements. So split on the first space, but don't split any more than that, because there may be spaces in the thing it sends us. I don't think that's likely, but we just don't want that bug to happen. String ping contents is what that is, right? And then what do? Write pong and the ping contents. That's it. Should be straightforward. Let's see if it actually works. I'm not sure how long the server waits before it pings, so let me start that first before we look at the rest. Enter nickname, DAC, David72486, David A. And as you can see, it's a different Freenode server this time. Depends on when you connect, who's available, I believe. Looks like it takes a bit to look it up. Oh, here we go. Awesome. Okay. So we have this here. We'll see if it ends up pinging us, and then we'll try to pong back. All right. Looks like it doesn't actually say that we need to do anything to join. But I believe joining is very straightforward. So all you need to do is use the join command, and let's join Reddit Daily Programmer. How do we do that? Well, let's do this, right? Join. Oh, that should be a string. Awesome. We could also make this an input as well if we wanted, but I don't want to type this out every time. Well, it looks like here there's no ping yet. Let's just rerun the server. All right. And we called join, as you can see. Let's wait for it to connect. Amazing. As you can see down here, there are some messages. Reddit Daily Programmer. And there's other users here as well, as you can see. Other bots, because this is part of the bot challenge. Let's see if we can find any messages that come in. Unfortunately, I don't see anything coming in immediately, so we can do that in the future. We can post some messages and see them come back, but for now, we should be pretty content that we've connected to an IRC bot. I think this is great. And as you can see, it's not very much code. So let's do a review here. What did we do? Well, we created a scanner for the input. This is just for user input. We set some variables. Then we created a new socket connecting to Freenode. This is just a well-known location. We created an input and an output stream. Then we wrote our commands here, nick and user to create our user and register that, and then join to actually join a specific channel. From there, then we get our input from the server, and it's going to give us responses and everything. And here we can see that we're actually responding to one of them, although we didn't see it in our example. But we do have it there in case that we get a ping. And then finally, if in.hasNext is false, as in it closes the connection on us for whatever reason, then we'll just go ahead and close our resources and exit the program, which will free everything anyway. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Very simple program, but has a lot of potential, and I very much encourage you to go to the r/dailyprogrammer, reddit.com/r/dailyprogrammer, and follow along on your own. Thank you very much.